Is it going?
It is going.
Oh, very good.
It is now real.
Yeah, a real deal. Anthony, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Yeah. Just to jump right into it, we were just chatting before we started here. You said you got expelled from your high school. Can we get into that?
All right. Story.
Yeah. Yeah, right into it. Yeah, I did. I went to Louis Saint Laurent, and I was in grade 11. It was I think it was just a couple months into being in grade 11. And I broke up with my girlfriend, or she broke up with me. And I think it was one of those, like, we broke up like 8,000 times in a month type of thing.
Yep.
And this other guy kissed her at a house party, so I had to fight him.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was actually.
Sorry, ignore that.
That was actually like, I think my third or fourth strike, that fight. So yeah, they sent me on my way, and I moved in with my dad after that. So it was actually that was actually really good to do, because I was getting in with definitely getting in with the wrong crowd. And well, I would just get right into the story, I guess. But yeah, I was hanging out with just idiots, and these guys trying to be like gangster and all that kind of stuff. And there was some kind of like allure for that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just kind of followed suit, and that's my first exposure to drugs. Really, was these guys. They weren't actually doing it, but they were selling it. Like we were in high school, and these guys had, like, call it a mentor, if you will, that are older than them. They're gangster mentors, and I actually saw this one guy. He had like a mint case. It's grade 11, I remember. He had a mint case, and there was crack in it. I've never seen it before. And he's like, "Yeah, check it out. Like, I sell crack." I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Damn. And for high
not
school
even
too,
not even just cocaine, crack.
Yeah, like the Olympics of cocaine.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was. I like, looking back now, that made me comfortable. Like, that didn't make me comfortable, but it made me feel like drugs weren't a big deal, because these guys were pretty normal for the most part. It wasn't like in like Requiem for a Dream or whatever. These guys are shooting up or scratching their necks and smoking meth. Normal dudes, like, kind of looked and acted like me, and they were selling drugs, so it didn't seem like such a big deal. So yeah, I just started to get comfortable with the whole thing, and the girls really liked these guys too, because it was like when like 50 Cent came out, and like all the gangster rap, when it was like talking about like murdering people and shit. Like, I feel like maybe I'm just not listening, but I feel like that's kind of went away a little bit. Like, it's not as much. Rap's not as gangster as it was.
At least maybe mainstream. I think I would agree for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I don't really hear people bragging about drive-bys and stuff, and maybe it's because I only pretty much just listen to podcasts now. But yeah, but back then it was super cool to be a drug dealer and be affiliated, and so it was. I was definitely attracted to it for sure.
What do you think the allure is? Is it just like because we have money, so we get the girls? Is that kind of the allure, or?
I think it's more, for me anyway. It was more of like a power thing. I really liked being the guy that had the drugs, and was like the drug dealer. You know what I mean? Like, or with the bigger drug dealer. So it's kind of like a badass thing, like a bit of a power thing, and a bit of a like, oh shit, that's Anthony. Like, he's got the drugs. The guy's crazy. Stay away from him, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
People would just really like that, and like the worst, most terrible girls loved it, and it was very toxic.
Right. Yeah. But definitely, I guess status would be kind of a status thing. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely status thing. And if people, it was kind of like, instead of getting love, or getting respect through love, you're getting respect through fear. And I wasn't. I didn't really respond to, like, I didn't want people to love me like like I didn't want to seem weak. I would rather have been feared. And I think I really held on to that through high school. And it made me, like, my temper was wicked. It was wicked. And I really liked it too. There's a couple of times I boxed for like 13 years, and I played hockey, and fighting was very much part of my life. And I'd punch windows and doors in the school, and it would get around, and I'd have this reputation, and people,
right.
and I liked it. But now, like, I would beat the shit out of myself if I met him. Give him a smack.
Yeah, for sure.
I think looking back on who we were even 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, some of the times you just want to slap that kid in the face type of thing.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Personally, I'm the same way, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that you don't want to live in the past, obviously, but there's a couple moments, especially where I'm like, I wish I'd never did that. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of regret there. Obviously it shapes you to who you are today, but still there's, you'd have to be lying, I think, to say that people don't think that way. Like, I wish I could go back and just change that one thing, because I'd be so much further ahead today. And that thing for me would be trying cocaine for sure. I think about that, like, not daily anymore, because I got other things to think about, like my business and my family and my son. But I used to just live there and be like, fuck, I wish I never tried it, because who knows where I'd be. But at the same time, I did have like a pretty inflated ego and a lot of those types of issues. So since I tried drugs and I got super heavily addicted to cocaine, it really, rock bottom is where I kind of built the foundation to what I have now. It's kind of cliche to say, but it's very, very true. It stripped me of my ego, and I was kind of one with the universe, if you will. Like, you could see clearly that I'm nobody. Like, we're all just like this little speck on a log type of thing, right?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was well, the first thing I did was ecstasy, when Tiesto was here, actually. That was like 2000. I think I was like 15, something like that.
Pretty young. That's pretty young.
Yeah, pretty young.
Yeah, that was young for sure. And that one didn't grip me. That one didn't really. I didn't care that much for it. In the moment, I did. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. But it wasn't like, I got to do this tomorrow and I got to do this tomorrow. It wasn't like that. But first time I tried blow or cocaine was, I think I was 22, 23, something like that. And I was like, so let me back up for a sec. Like, when we moved in with my dad, that completely changed my life for the better for a while. I respect him. He's a couple inches taller than me, so it was easier he controlled me pretty well. Not in a controlling way though, but more the what I was alluding to earlier. Like, I wasn't afraid of him. I loved him, and he knew that. So it wasn't like you have to be home by this time, or you have to be. I had an incredible amount of freedom, and I didn't fuck it up. And I'll always remember that, especially for when I'm parenting with my son. Like, the like rules and the strictness doesn't necessarily work for everybody. It doesn't work for most people, in my opinion. So but yeah, so when I moved in with him, I got away from all those guys, and I just hated drugs. Like, I hated everything about it. Like, you're a loser if you dealt drugs. And if I saw several people do cocaine when I was working at the bars when I turned 18.
Okay.
And I'm like, you guys are just losers. Like, I thought I was the last person to ever do it.
Yeah. And so you never tried it, like, in high school when you're hanging out with those guys or anything like that?
No, it was too scary for me still. Like, I still listened to, like, do you guys remember Mad?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, Dare.
Oh, Dare as well. Yeah.
Yeah. There's all those videos of people, like, scratching their neck, and like, they're so high and they don't know where they are. And there's people that like sell their babies just for a hit. And I thought it was well, it can get like that for sure, but I thought it was like that right away. So I was like, I didn't want to try it when I was in high school or anything like that. I only tried it when I started hanging out with some other buddies that I met at work. And I had no idea they did it. And then they did it at a birthday party, and they just seemed normal. And it looked like they were having a good time. Like they made it looked sexy. It looked romantic. It looked fun. It looked great. And it was in this guy, he's dead now, but it was this big drug dealer here in Edmonton. So he had like big mansion. He had like all kinds of nice cars, and he was wearing like a fur coat, and all these girls liked him. Like it was like a movie. It was nuts.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll try it. And I did. And second it went on my nose, I was like, fuck, like I love this. I knew I was in trouble right away.
That's one thing that I was reading a book recently, and Dare is really good at associating pain with drugs. So that's why they show you that whole, like, you know, crack den, people just tweaking out. You don't want to be like that person. And they actually are pretty successful with that. But yeah, I mean, I think the jury is out. Is that the best method of doing avoidance techniques? Or
yeah, it's definitely a start, that's for sure, because it kept me away from it at a younger age. But I think more long term, people got to be more honest about who does it as well. Like saying, like I said, these guys, I had no idea they did it at all, and Dare made it seem like it was like these people that you would never meet. You know what I mean? These crackheads in an alley and stuff. Yeah. But that's fast forwarded. No one really talks about how it starts.
Yeah, and that's like 5 years later type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just kind of at a party or whatever, someone you know.
It's subtle. It's very subtle, and if you're around, if it's around you, people will eventually push it onto you one day. Like it may not be your closest friends, but your friend's friend of a friend or whatever. It'll definitely be pushed on you, because people don't want to do it by themselves. Typically, I used to do it by myself when I got really, really heavily addicted, and we can get into that in a bit. I did it by myself all the time, but it started off with just small little amounts here and there, and just totally normal dudes that could turn it on and turn it off. Just do a couple of bumps at night, and that's it. But I'm just not wired that way.
Addictive personality?
100%, yeah. With everything. So I've used it now to harness, like I can harness it like very well now, and with my business and just my work ethic and the gym and all that kind of stuff. I use it for good. But it's, there's definitely there's a demon there for sure that always wants to eat. You got to feed it something else.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people like me. Like I went to tons of meetings and like Cocaine Anonymous meetings, and just now that I've come out to talking about addiction and stuff, I'm like inundated with DMs of people asking either for help or what they should do about their brother or sister or mother or anything like that. And I welcome that for sure.
Yeah, I think there's sorry, I was just going to say, I think there's a little bit of a stigma around it. So people that once they see somebody that's coming out and saying, hey, like this happened to me, they can relate to that a lot easier, and then they're going to come right to you. They're like a magnet type of thing.
Yeah. That's exactly why I did it. Is I had this, I was on my chest for years, and there was a lot of I'm not sure if you guys heard the first podcast I did with Second Floor, but I talked about the story where my family was going to Hawaii, and I planned on killing myself while they were in Hawaii, because when you're doing I was doing like 3 or 4 grams a day every single day, so I was getting high every day, but I was coming down every day also.
Jesus, what's the price of that?
It is I think it was $180 for me.
Yeah.
I was on like a reward program.
Oh God.
Yeah, these fucking dealers, man. Like,
They know how to get you.
Oh yeah, and they'll front you for a couple months or whatever, and then you got to somehow come up with the money because you're not going to work because you're fucked up. You don't want to go to work, and it alters your brain, like the way your receptors respond to each other and your dopamine. It is so fucked up. You need that drug big time to feel normal. Just the first couple like bumps or whatever will make you feel normal. So yeah, I was definitely not myself, and so the state of mind I was in when my family went to Hawaii was, I thought I was being like, what do you call it? Like, I thought I was it was a great idea, and I was being selfless to kill myself while they're in paradise, because they get to be in paradise and they get to mourn my loss, and they while there's fucking luau's and shit. And I actually thought that was a good idea, and like I was being okay, like it was normal. And like now that I would never fathom that, like that's just not even I can't even believe it. Like I can't even believe I was there. And that's kind of why there's a massive debate, not so much anymore, about if drugs, like addiction, is a disease. And I think 100% it's a disease, because having an addictive personality isn't a disease, but being addicted to drugs, I'd say, is a disease, because you're taking these chemicals in, which is like cocaine is kerosene, gasoline, acetone, the plant itself, and then who else knows what it's cut with.
Right.
It's going up your face. That's how I did it. I did it like through my nose. I didn't inject it or anything or ever smoke it, but it's going up your face, and it's gonna, like, it literally burns brain cells. Like it's a fucking disease. The same thing as a biological disease. So yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. Geez, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so can I ask, kind of for the whole process of your time with like addiction, you started when you were 22, you said? Like, was it a couple years that this was going on for, or?
It was like every weekend for probably about 2 years, like give or take. Like it started off a little slower than that. Actually, it was that birthday I went to, and then it was like every weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it. I did, however, get my shit together for a little while. I met a girl. We got married, and we divorced for like within a year and 10 months or something. We were together for 5 years, and in that time, I did it maybe twice.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't really care for it. I started a new business. Back then it was generation contracting. And that was my new drug. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to make everybody proud with that, and make money and make a legacy, and everything you want to do, make a difference. Everything you want to do with making your business, right? And that was my new drug. So I was pretty clean, and then her and I had a falling out, and I lost a ton of money on the last 3 job sites of my first business venture. So that kind of, I started losing my identity. Like I started to become a failure in my eyes, and a letdown, and I couldn't fulfill any promises, and I couldn't give this life to my wife at the time that she wanted. She came from a family of money and stuff, so she wanted the same type of thing, and I just couldn't fulfill that. So I just felt like the biggest loser, and so I just said, you know what makes me not feel like a loser? Cocaine. So that's what I did. I remember it clearly. I ran into the dealer when I was out at pub on the south side, and he's like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you for a long time." Like, he actually fronted me. He's like, I was like, "I don't have any cash on me right now," because I was like fucking broke, because I lost a bunch of money, like 85 grand on a couple job sites.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was down to like a couple $100 in my checking account. It was just brutal. And so he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it," and he gave me an 8-ball, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Like 3.5 grams, I'm pretty sure, and did it all, every ounce of it or gram of it. And then it was like I had no job sites to go to. I had nothing to go to. I had nothing to keep me accountable, and I had no purpose. which is the biggest fucking thing. If you don't have any purpose, like, you're in trouble. You got to find it. And that's what happened. I didn't have any purpose. So I started doing it every single day, and I would do these bullshit little side jobs for cash. And I would just do it every day. And I was like, I just weighed myself like 30 minutes ago. I'm like 215, 212, 215. I was 153 pounds.
Wow, really? Yeah.
At my lowest, yeah. Once I started doing it every day right after the breakup and I lost my business and stuff, I did it every day for 9 months.
Wow. Fuck.
Yeah. It was bad. You could see it, like, I almost wish I had a time lapse, like, you know, those like check-in.
Yeah.
I was like, hey,
take a photo every day for a year or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I could just see my body deteriorating, and my teeth and my hair was all thin. I cut my own hair since I've been in isolation, by the way. So I think it looks not bad, but
no, I think you did a good job.
Don't look at the back. Yeah, I got to wear a hat whenever I leave.
Yeah, but, get your son to do the back.
Yeah, exactly. It probably look better than the front. But I started doing it every day, and that's when my family was starting to be like, "Yo, what the fuck is going on with this guy?"
They could like. Would you say before that you kind of hit it, or were you always kind of?
I hit it.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't open. Like, you guys ever watch the show Intervention by chance?
Yes.
Here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like every time it blows my mind. Every single time the parents know. Like, the family knows. They're like, "Oh, my son, he's addicted to heroin," or my whatever. Like I don't know. I wouldn't accept that. Like, if my son was starting to lose weight and not be himself and be like temperamental and his teeth are getting all fucked up, I would intervene like right away. So, and my family would have too. I just happened to, like, I don't know. I guess maybe I was just a good bullshit artist, but I kept my distance from them as well. I always missed family events. I moved out when I was 18 as well, so I always missed family events, like when I started to get addicted. So they never really saw me. But when I did show up, it was after long periods of time. So it was like, holy fuck, big, huge difference. And then a couple more times after that, my dad was like, "What's going on with you?" And I still never told him. I never told him until I did that podcast, that first podcast with Second Floor.
Really? Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that was how I told everyone. I didn't tell anyone for 3.5 years.
Wow.
It's from my family, anyways. My buddies all knew and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, my buddies my actual friends that stayed around and helped me out and stuff. They obviously knew, but they didn't know until then. But I veered off for a sec there, for a while there. But
no worries. That's the name of the game with this podcast. But
yeah, right on, good. I veered off long and hard. The reason why I told this story is first of all to tell my family in a safe way, like in just me one-on-one with my buddy Kenny, but also so that people can reach out and know that it can be done. Like, you can get out of it. There's a guy, I always fuck up the math on this, but there's a guy that ran mile under X amount of time. I can't remember what it is. He broke the record in like the 30s.
Right.
And
4-minute mile.
Yeah. 4-minute mile. That's right.
I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
4-minute mile. Yeah. That's right. And then the next year, like 14 people did it. And then the next year, like 35 people did it. And now it's like a standard, right? But the point is, when you know something can be done, you're way more likely to do it. And I heard that stat. I don't even remember where I heard that. That saying or whatever you call it. I'm not sure where I heard it, but it clicked for me. I'm like, yeah, I need to talk about this, because certain people might be, you see like the highlight reel on Instagram and stuff, right? So certain people might be like, "Oh, this guy is perfect." I'm not talking about me, but other people. But the fact of the matter is, there's plenty of successful people that went bankrupt or were addicted to drugs at one point. Like Tom Hardy was massively addicted to crack when he was younger. Look at him now. Right?
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. Mike Tyson. Like, it could go on forever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, they didn't talk about it you're vulnerable when you talk about it, but they didn't talk about it into detail, and that's what I wanted to do. And not only for other addicts, but for other parents too. Say like, yo, these are some of the signs, and this is what you should look out for. And yeah, so I get lots of people that reach out, and it's very touching. It can be like pretty exhausting, because I go back to that space often, because you gotta crank your empathy up when you're talking to people if you want to make a difference. And so it can be a little bit exhausting, but it's definitely worth it. It's part of my mission for sure.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, I like it. So because you do like speaking as well, kind of with this, So
it's
is that kind of a newer venture overall, or?
Yeah, it's about a year old now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've done 6 engagements, and I got a couple bigger ones coming up. They're not announced yet, so I'm not allowed to say. It's actually said right in the email. Right. So
nice NDA. I like that.
Okay. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a huge passion of mine. It's public speaking. Always been pretty not flashy, but when I'm in the room, basically, like I'm pretty loud dude, Italian guy, like talking with my hands. But,
do this thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that on top of like talking to especially students like junior high and high school,
right?
I think it's just very, very important that they see that it could happen to anybody.
Yeah,
and exactly. Like for all I know, their older brother is going through it or something. I can kind of show them how to approach it.
How did you get your first engagement?
How did I get that one? The school that I got expelled from, one of the teachers who I went to school with she became a teacher there, and she asked me to come talk to her grade 9s.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was super cool, and I really enjoyed the fact that I thought I would lose them. Like I remember when I was in grade 9, people would come, like some guys from like the Edmonton Eskimos and stuff. Like those guys I would listen to for sure. But there's like a bunch of other guys and girls that would come talk about like don't do drugs, and it's like shut up. Like you didn't really listen. It's just like you didn't go through it for sure. But when I walked in there, for whatever reason, I think it's because I'm just covered in tattoos, and they were like in grade 9, and they're like, holy shit, this guy's got tattoos, and they just kind of listened to me right away. And I also said the goods. I said the truth. Like, this is what's going to happen. I told them a story about a guy that I knew that sold drugs, and he got fucking murdered, execution style. And they were like, what? Like, what? Like, yeah, that's a real thing. Like, if you guys want to sell drugs and do drugs, like, you're either going to be locked up or killed. Locked up or wrapped up, basically, is a saying that goes around, and it's super true.
Wow. Yeah. When to backpedal a little bit, but like kind of when you were in it, let's say, like with the addiction and doing drugs, did you kind of know that you were addicted at the time? Were you kind of aware of yourself, of your actions, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes. At the beginning, it was, like you can kind of like, you guys have probably lied to yourself, right?
Never.
But yeah.
Doing it right now.
Exactly.
Like deep down, like you can say the words like, whatever, I'm going to go to the gym at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Sure. You can say that out loud, but like here, you're like, I'm not going to fucking go tomorrow because whatever, right? I was like that. So I would be like, I'm not addicted, but really I'd be like, I'm fucked. Like, I don't know how this is going to end, but I always kind of pushed it away, kind of pushed it down the line. I'll deal with it later. And once I set up a test for myself, once I started doing it by myself, that was one where I'm like, okay, like this is obviously a problem.
Right.
And then another one, I consciously didn't pay my mortgage payments so that I could buy blow. So that's another one. And then the final one was I had some left over from the night before, and because I passed out because I was also drinking at the time too, whiskey or something. And I'm like, okay, I got a little pile there. If I can leave this alone, then I have a fighting chance. And I think I lasted about 8 seconds. Like, actually, I was just like, yeah, I could do this. And then I just like said that while I was walking towards it.
Yeah.
Like rolling up the bill. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. No. and I did it. And then I'm like, I'm totally fucked.
Right.
And you just start prioritizing that in front of everything. And that's when it starts getting really, really bad. And then of course, when you're like, the only way out is I'm going to kill myself. That's as bad as it gets. Cause if you live like you're going to die, you don't give a fuck about anything. And that's where I was at. I didn't care about anything at all. So I actually tricked a bunch of dealers and stuff so that they could front me some blow because I was just going to kill myself. Like, they can't collect from a dead guy. You know what I mean? Like, I was there.
Right. Yeah.
Super fucking shitty.
Yeah, definitely, man. And it's a powerful story, and we appreciate that you're comfortable sharing it, for sure.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, actually, so, and then, because just to reference your other podcast appearances and stuff, because you had like your condo got foreclosed on or something like that during this time period, like you just mentioned, the mortgage payment thing,
everything got taken away. 100% my fault, obviously. But I got my condo. So the condo is it's a shitty story. I tell it all the time now, but when I was 19, I bought it, and I put the down payment for it, and I saved up through my apprenticeship. I did a bunch of side jobs, like just for cash, building decks or whatever. I'm a journeyman red seal carpenter, by the way. That was my trade, or still is my trade. So I'd build decks for cash, and I'd work at the bar, a couple bars, Squires, Club Malibu when it was open on White Ave, Knoxville's when it was open. Just so I could save
RIP to all of those.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Just so I could save up for this down payment, and I wanted to be the first to buy a condo. I wanted to make my mom and dad proud, family proud, all that kind of stuff. And I found this one, which was a foreclosure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I bought it because it overlooked this like man-made lake on the south side, and it had trails and big trees and shrubs and stuff like that. I really, really liked that, and it backed right onto it. So that's why I bought it. So I'm like, fucking sweet. So I bought that, and then fast forward, I became addicted to drugs and got behind on my mortgage payment, and I got kicked out of my house. Like, sheriffs came and took my home away, which is probably one of the worst days of my life. Just that feeling of like it's like it's real, like, you know what I mean. And I had places to go. Like, I could have went to my parents, I could have went to my buddies, but I was so ashamed because I was supposed to be this successful guy. Everyone around me loved my energy, and I got lots of like I'd pump people up. It was part of my identity, and it is again. Like, I love doing that, but I didn't feel like I could go anywhere, mostly because of my ego. So I actually ended up living right by that man-made lake outside. So
really?
the view that I bought, I lived under. So I had to.
So you were homeless.
Yeah,
for 28 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like, and then finally, a buddy stepped in, like, dude, are you fucking sleeping outside? Yeah, I am. So, and I also had a 2012 Dodge Ram. And another thing I was really proud of, and that got repossessed in front of my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I kept like a typical addict. Like, you just keep pushing things along. You're like, I'll deal with it later. This isn't real, whatever. And finally, it got to the point where the bailiff was like, "Yo, man, I'm taking your truck," and I blocked him. Like, ha, that'll fucking work.
Right.
And he ended up finding me because that's literally their only job.
Right.
So he found me right away within days, and then came in with the tow truck, and I couldn't do anything about it. He's with a sheriff, so I'm not gonna fight him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, it was 150 pounds. I'd lose right away. Yeah, that was like a really low moment, and I knew that it was just gonna get worse, and I was gonna die soon. So, fortunately, met a guy that later became my business partner, Christian dude, and he took me into a mutual friends of ours, and he's like, let's get you better, man. Like, let's do this, right? And I pictured it as, I kind of pictured it as a flowing river, and there's all these, you're stuck on the side of this river, and there's all these like life rafts going past you, and all you have to do is just jump and you'll be saved. And he was this like fucking broken down tree, the last thing that was coming down the river, and I'm like, I gotta jump or I'm gonna die. And
before the waterfall.
That's right. And I decided to jump. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna jump. And something changed in me that day where I realized the power of being vulnerable, which is the opposite of what we're taught, especially as men like us. Vulnerable. It's definitely changed now. Being vulnerable is pretty cool. Like, it's pretty clear that if you're vulnerable, you're going to be successful, and there's different levels of it and whatever. And we can get into that if you want. But I knew that it was really important to be vulnerable. So I just jumped right into it. And I'm like, hey man, I'm super addicted to cocaine. I'll lie through my teeth to get my drug. Like, you basically got to fucking chain me to a telepost so I don't leave. And it's going to be a really fucking rough 3 days. And that's exactly what happened. Like, cold sweats. I couldn't think. I got headaches. I was moody. I could have probably killed him. I just needed that drug. And they stuck it out. They stuck it out with me. And after about day 4, when I noticed all the like love and attention I was getting in a positive way, and also they weren't talking down to me either, which is massively important. If anyone who's listening is trying to help out somebody that is addicted to anything, do not belittle. It does not work. You just have to be empathetic and listen and use logic and reason, but do not belittle, because I think if they belittle, I probably would have ran away, and I already felt like a failure enough, right? But yeah, by day 4, like biologically, I started feeling like I felt better, like my skin was clearing up a little bit. It happened pretty quick. We started progressing, and I was able to go out, and we started this business together where we were Zorzetto Williams was the name of our business. And we were building decks and fences and doing rentals, and I had to keep my mind off drugs. So him and I would work like no lies, like 16 to 20 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. There was one job we did. It was 20 hours a day. We did it for a few days in a row, and we started to hallucinate. We had this stupid fucking this stupid timeline, and we were dealing with epoxy and xylene, like these chemicals, and we were wearing a dust mask for our chemicals. Like, it's like a 4-foot dam and an 8-foot river. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it was just, So I'm like, fuck, I'm super high. Like, I'm like not like cocaine high. Like, I'm like, I feel like this isn't right.
Yeah.
And like, I swear to this day, I saw an animal in a vending machine at this place. I'm like, there's a fucking monkey in there. And he's like, dude, no. And so I had to distract myself. But with doing that, I realized that I can work these ungodly hours, and that's a trait of a successful entrepreneur, as far as I read. So I'm like, let's there's something here. Like, let's pursue it. And I shifted my focus from wanting to do drugs or just wanting to stay sober into wanting to be successful, which I think is super important. Like, I went to several meetings, and the objective in these CA meetings and AA meetings, although they're very important, and like, I gotta say, my methods to becoming sober are fucking wildly unpopular. Like, it works for me, and it works for, there's a couple of guys that I know that are kind of wired the same way as me. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I'll just straight up say that.
And what is your method is like cold turkey, essentially cut yourself off.
Yeah.
Focus on something else.
Yeah. It's focused. But the thing is, yeah, you focus on something else, distract yourself, but you have to work on it still. You can't just turn a blind eye to it, because that monster will always be there. The trick for me is think about being successful or being great or being good at something else, not just being sober. Because if you're thinking about the thing you don't want to do, you're gonna fucking do it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Eventually. So I kind of use the analogy of a ladder. If you're climbing the rungs of a ladder and there's 10 rungs in your ladder, let's say, sober should be number 3 or 4. Like, it's important to get there, but don't stop at just being sober, because then you're gonna surround yourself with other people that just only want to be sober, and that is going to be your standard. You should raise your standard to the next bar and the next bar, and then just staying sober should just be this fucking thing in the past that you got over, and that way it makes it really small.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, and that's with anything like fitness, or people overeat, or people are addicted to. You can be addicted to anything. Like, the definition of it, I agree with like Russell Brandt's definition of it is, if you're screwing up your ordinary life for that thing becomes your life. That's an addiction. Like, you can get addicted to ice cream. Like, you're not going to eat right. You're just going to eat ice cream. Like, you're fucking addicted to ice cream. Or Netflix. You're going to miss work so you can binge watch like Ozark, which is a sick show, by the way. But I'm not going to miss work for it. Like, you can get addicted to that. So that's just kind of, I'm not 100% certain where I even got that from, but I know myself really, really well, and I know it works, and I know to listen to that little voice that I was talking about earlier, where you can't lie to yourself. You can verbalize it, but that little fucker inside of you is saying like, no, you're not.
It knows.
Or it knows. Listen to that one.
Definitely. Yeah. So reading between the lines there, though, a lot of your the way you cleaned yourself up, let's say, you did it yourself, more or less, correct?
Well, no. I finished it myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I finished it myself. Like, yeah, that'd be the best way to put it. If I didn't have Dan to man up and come grab me and be like, hey man, you got to figure your shit out, I would be fucking dead. 100%. Yeah. 100%. So yeah, it was kind of like I guess like a rally, like baton. He handed it off and he's like, hey, do your thing, man, succeed. And that's what I did.
Did you relapse?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. And I took it as, I did a few times, not to the extent where it was like, party all night, like do 4 grams till I'm drooling, and like, oh man, guys, like I would do so much. It's not funny, but it's funny now because it's over. But I would do so much, and I'd be so paranoid that I would be in the corner of my condo with a baseball bat in my underwear, drooling, because you lose control of your face and stuff, like, because you're doing so much. And I'd be holding a bat. I remember a time I held a bat for 2 hours, and I hunched my back over for 2 hours, thinking that a drug dealer was going to come kill me through one door, like my sliding door. I was on the main floor, or the cops were going to kick in my door. And I would stand there fucking 2 hours, no joke. And anything that moved, I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, so bad. Like, and then think about, like, no one wants to do that. Like, imagine doing that. Like, and you're so, I don't know if you've ever been paranoid, but it is crippling. But I did it every day anyways. Like, that's how addictive this shit is.
Right.
So yeah, it's super fucked up. But when I relapsed, it was just not to make light of it at all, but it was nowhere near that level.
Right. It was
yeah, I had a couple of drinks, which I do not recommend, and I've since completely stopped, because I have a saying where if you have a bottle of beer by the time the neck is gone, the drug dealer's on his way. Because you could be the most solid person ever in your mind, and then you have a little bit of substance and it'll trigger past emotions. So like usually I would start it by drinking. So I'd have a beer and then I'd call a drug dealer. You know what I mean? Or I can't even drive. I won't even drive in certain parts of the south side where I used to live. I won't even drive there because I get such bad anxiety, like around my old place. So yeah, I had a couple moments of weakness. I have a beer, and then somebody would have someone. I would do a line and be like, fuck, you know. But I wouldn't progress. You know what I mean? I would just go home or you know, stay out but not do any more of it, and just make sure that I anchored myself the next day. Like go to the gym and talk to. I had a buddy, like I guess you could call him a sponsor. Tell him what happened. Walk through him with it, and just go to the next run. Don't stay down there. Just keep fucking going up. And you can't beat yourself up too bad. It's just it starts a bad cycle. And a lot of people would say, a lot of addicts out there will say that's selfish if you don't like beat yourself up and, you know, be remorseful and say, you know, that was terrible with what I did. It is, you know it, move on.
Sure. I was going to ask about that, because how do you stop yourself from spiraling if you do relapse, even just minorly, right? And I think you hit the nail on the head with that for sure.
Yeah, you gotta know yourself as well. Like if you have something planned, let's say you relapse on a Friday night, and you're going out Saturday night, you're not going out Saturday night. You gotta that little voice to be like, don't fucking do it, man. Just stay home. Or I got a buddy of mine, Eric. He's one of my oldest friends, my best friend. I'll give him a shout, and when I'm feeling that way, and he doesn't even know. Sometimes he doesn't know. Sometimes he'd be like, man, I feel like doing drugs. Like I feel really weak, and he'll just talk to me. Or sometimes I'll just call him and pretend I'm calling him for some bullshit reason, and just for whatever reason, like listening to him and talking to him like puts into perspective. Like I don't want to let him down, and I don't want to let other people down. So I'll call him. You know what I mean? So I know that I won't spiral if I do certain things, and that's definitely one of them. And super aggressive workouts as well. Like just going until you want to throw up. That releases the endorphins you need, because cocaine does. And again, I can only speak to cocaine because it's all I've ever done. Cocaine, MDMA, ecstasy, which is about the same thing, and like cannabis. But cocaine is dopamine and endorphins. For some reason, if you do a line, you feel like you did a job, like something is fulfilled, and you feel like you're on top of the fucking world, and your dopamine is going crazy. But the next day, it all comes crashing down. So the way to get that dopamine back in a healthy way, super aggressive workout for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting, man. Just taking it all in. But So can I ask now? Like you don't even have like a beer sort of thing. You're totally 100% sober, clean sort of thing, or can you?
I read it. I'll read it. So like if I'm out at my brother's birthday, for example, he makes craft beer.
Okay.
I'll have a beer there and just stop it there, because the guy who used to do cocaine is dead. So that'll never come up again. But I'm very cautious to not take it too far, because once you go past, like I'm sure you guys have you guys ever blacked out before drinking?
Yes.
Like got super shit faced, and like not necessarily blackout that you don't remember. Like we've all done that, I'm sure, but drink too much. Your
inhibitions are down, and
yeah, exactly. Your inhibitions are down. Your integrity is down. So you could be caught off guard. Like I could be, let's say I had like 12 beers or something like that, and I was with a buddy who I knew had it. I might be like, fuck, give me a little bump or something like that. Like you never know, right? So just kind of being cautious, which again is wildly unpopular. I don't recommend it. If you want to get clean, just kick it all. There's very few psychos like me that can do that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Definitely. So I guess so what would kind of be the mainstream uh, methodology? It would be more the AA, NA, and like that kind of route, or
Yeah, yeah. It's first of all, like there's a 12-step program,
yeah.
and that's what like AA, NA, and CA. That's what they're all about.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll kind of you get chips. So when your first day you get a
Yes.
chip,
Yeah.
and then 30 days, 60 days, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all kind of support in there. So if you have bad feelings, or you just want to talk to somebody or whatever, there's a phone list that you can call, and somebody will talk you off the ledge. For lack of better words. And there's emergency meetings too. Let's say it's 1 a.m, you need it fucking now. You can go to an emergency meeting. There's 24-hour meetings all over the place. So
Really? Okay. Interesting.
yeah, and it all like it's deep. It's super deep. So
Mm-hmm.
some people do drugs for different reasons. I was never ever the guy who went out to drink and get shit faced because I was upset. I would go out to have fun, and my energy was super high, so I wanted to make it higher.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So some people can't, if they're feeling down and really down, they have a beer, it makes them feel better. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Mine, I feel good, I'll have a beer, I feel better. So that can get dangerous as well, because I want to feel better. And if 1 beer makes me feel good, 4 beers make me feel even better. And you know what I mean? You do your fake math in your head, and then before you know it, you're blacked out, right? But to me, that's easier to control than the latter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but again, I don't even really like saying it, but I just need to tell the truth. That's just how I am.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, a lot of people don't function that way, and don't use me as a like, oh, Anthony can have a couple of beers, so I can have a couple of beers, when you're gonna fucking do drugs after. Again, it's like listening to that little voice, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't compare anyone's addiction or journey. It's all different. It's all different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Did you essentially have like a day one where you realized I'm never going to do this again? Was there a point where you were just like, I'm never going back?
Yeah, it was a morning after a relapse. Yeah, a long time ago. I was like, I was supposed to do several things for a client and for my business, as well as like clean my place. And there was a dinner I had to go to, and I missed all of those commitments because I was too fucked up. Like I wasn't high still. I was just very like, it's hard to explain, and I hope you guys never feel that. But it was just a feeling of like disappointed in myself and mad anxiety, and I thought everybody was mad at me, and just couldn't get off the couch, but you couldn't nap. You were just like in a fucked up state. And I was like, I will never feel this again. I don't want to ever feel this again. And the next day, so that was it. That was the day after I relapsed. The day after that, I made sure I did everything and like 10 things more. And then I felt super accomplished, and I'm like, this is me. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to look forward to. And that was my day one, where I was like, no more fucking around. And I set up a lot of commitments and anchors, like gym every morning, super early, like 4:30. I'm up, go to the gym. Pretty much no matter what. There's obviously life happens and you miss a few. I'm not Dwayne Johnson, but yeah, I do those things, and I do a ton at work, and I make myself a list. And when you make yourself a list, you get these check marks after you do a task, and I make them as detailed as possible so I get more check marks. Like if you can make a list to say, go to work.
Sure.
And then you get 1 check mark. If you say, wake up, hydrate, workout, take protein, blah, blah, blah. And then you go check. Those, you get more endorphins during the day.
Yeah.
And that works for me. So I don't want to not feel, I want to always feel that sense of accomplishment. So I don't fuck around.
That's super powerful, man.
Yeah, keeps me straight. And the only person I compare myself to, not that I am in, I worded that wrong. I'm not comparing myself to him. I look up to him is fucking like Dwayne Johnson and like David Goggins and those guys, like, because they make me feel so lazy. Like Kevin Hart too, same. Conor McGregor. Like I all day when I'm at work, I listen to footage of Conor McGregor with Tony Robbins, for example, interviewing him. Like, just keeping your mind right. It really works. Just for anything, to get sober, to work out, to clean your house, to get the balls to ask that girl out or whatever. You know, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're really about kind of the understanding the brain chemistry behind kind of everything, right? Like the release you get from even checking off a task or understanding how that affects addiction as well, right? So
yeah, it's there's tons and tons of science behind it, and it's fascinating, like super fascinating. And actually, I never really I got into it about 5 years ago. But I, as of recently, just started really dialing in on what the brain actually does, because I got called out for addiction not being a disease, and it made me fucking mad. Like, I got so mad,
really,
because this person thought that I was calling it that, or that other addicts call it that, so that they have permission to do it.
Right.
And that's not the case. It's like, oh, it's a disease, it's not my fault. And I would say that to an addict too. Oh, it's a disease, it's not my fault. Well, yeah, but you can fucking deal with it. You don't just hide behind this, it's a disease. Like, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? You can kick a disease. Like, there's medicine for it, right? And an addict's medicine is, we have a million outlets. Like, it's not like you're actually fortunate if you have that disease. There's not a lot you can do about pancreatic cancer, but you can do a fuck ton for addiction. There's therapy. There's visualization. There's hypnosis. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And like I said earlier, the reason why it's a disease is because it attacks your brain tissue and your body tissue, and it makes you not think the same way. Like me, thinking that it's a great idea to kill myself to rid my family of my fuckery. That I actually literally thought it was a good idea. Just like, you know, going to the gym is a good idea. It was right in the same ballpark. Like, that's how fucked up I was. So yeah, absolutely, it was a disease. So once I started arguing with this guy, I'm like, I better back this up. So I really started diving into it, and before I knew it, it was like 3 a.m, and I'm not scrolling through Instagram for once. I'm scrolling through, you know, like different papers on addiction and how successful people kicked it, and it kind of fueled me to talk about my journey and stick it to these people that don't think it's like that way.
Well, I mean, it's taking responsibility. Sure, it's a difficult situation to be in, but I have the responsibility that I can change it. And I think that's almost step one. Not that I've ever experienced it, but it's from what you're saying to me, what I'm hearing, I feel like that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, it's step one. And that literally is step one in the 12-step program, is admitting you have a problem. And then you move forward from there. Like, you own it and you take responsibility for it. And another kind of going off for a sec, but another reason why I'm not popular in groups and stuff like that is because I'm like, I remember looking around and be like, what a bunch of fucking victims. Like, like, you know, like, I cannot stand victim mentality. It is so dangerous, and it's everywhere. Like, it's everywhere. Yeah. It's in like Google reviews for restaurants, like, or other things. Like, they give you this story. The first paragraph is about, like, oh, they had a long hard day at blah blah blah, and all they wanted was a nice burger from wherever. And like, what the fuck? Like, just the burger wasn't good. That's it. That's all you have to say. You don't have to be a victim, you know. Or it's not your fault. It's not your fault that your parents were alcoholics. It's not your fault that all these horrible things could have happened to you, but it is your fault if you don't do something about it. I believe in that. Like it, and it's a bit of tough love, but it is what it is. Like you control your life. Obviously, there's people in other parts of the world and stuff that I can't speak about because I have no idea. There's people that get kidnapped. There's people that get drugged into sex slavery. That's real shit. And I know nothing about it, so I'm not speaking about that. What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The hardships that we get when we're young, we absolutely have to take either run from it or deal with it and grow from it. And that's what I think you should do is grow off of that and take responsibility for it and help others get through it as well.
We almost live in this society where it's one-upping each other for how much of a victim we are in some cases.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Like so true. And I just can't even, I have a hard time dealing with it big time. Cause it's sometimes I hear people's hard day. That's a tough one for me where it's like, you know, I had a hard day cause I had 13 more emails than I was supposed to, or I had to take the fucking stairs because the elevator was down, or like, I'm like, oh my God, like really? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I'm thinking I was fucking homeless. I was addicted to drugs heavily. I wanted to kill myself. I tried to kill myself. You know what I mean? All this stuff. And then there's another person who, like, let's say is a Navy SEAL, and he's like, yo, that's cute. You know what I mean? I had to go to Somalia and my best friend died, and you know what I mean? And so one-upping the people that actually go through hard like real hardships, I don't think they one up. I think it's just a bunch of these little fuckers that, like, oh, well, my brother's cousin's aunt died and I'm having a bad day. Like, I just can't deal with that shit, and it's very much like that. And especially like on social media and stuff, you see people talking about, they're like, okay, like they start off like rant, like, oh fuck, this is gonna be good. And it's like, I went to the grocery store and I saw this person, and then they just say that they did a good deed, and like they it wasn't actually a good deed. They just like stood up to somebody or whatever, and then they get all these friends saying like, good job girl, or good job buddy, or whatever. And like, so sorry you had such a bad day, or you know what I mean? It's just like, come on. Spread the positivity, and think about what other people are going through. You know what I mean? Like right now we're in the middle of COVID. This shit is insane, but we're not storming the beaches of Normandy, right? Like that's what gets me going all day. Yeah. Is like this is very serious, like very, very serious for sure. But we're not getting asked to like go fight a war. We're not getting asked to do all kinds of stuff, and it's not like it's an 80% mortality rate either. Like it could be much worse, and that's what's getting me through anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're being asked to stay home and record podcasts over Skype. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Like fuck, like I have a nice shirt on but I have sweatpants on.
I don't have any pants on.
Yeah, exactly. Like my fridge is like 20 feet away. Like I can just go out, get up and get a steak if I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like it's like, this is not hard.
Yeah, most definitely. So how is your quarantine going then? Because we were discussing before we started, you're still working and everything, construction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So construction was named essential, and we're actually on like an acreage. So we're doing this big shop, like 6,000 square foot building, and I scheduled it so that it's 2 trades at a time, or 2 people, 1 trade at a time. So just in accordance to the rules, I could have everyone there technically, but my Nono and Nona are almost 90, and my Oma and Grandpa on my mom's side, they're about the same age. So I don't want I just don't want to spread anything, and I don't want to be part of the problem. You know what I mean? I'd rather be part of the solution. These guys need to work. We need to get some income, and let's do it in a safe way, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
And I'm a 4,000% extrovert, like big time. So I was very, very nervous. going into this thing, like, man, if they like lock us down, like, you know, I'm gonna have to, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but now I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do some podcasts through Skype.
There you go.
Hey, exactly, right? Yeah. So actually, but on that note with the construction thing, because you've been self-employed more or less this whole time largely, correct? Like from
Yeah.
young adulthood to now, obviously.
Yeah, 2012. I actually started doing side jobs like every carpenter that wants to. It's very popular, side jobs with any trade, right? I started doing that, and then once I started getting more money for less risk, I'm like, there's something here. Like, there's a business here, right? And then I went all in, 2012, and I've been on my own ever since.
Right. Wow. So do you GC, or are you specifically framer, or?
No, I'm a GC.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so we do all kinds of commercial renovations. I used to do residential renovations, but not so much anymore. Especially now, you can't do residential renovations right now, anyways, because you're in other people's homes. Be it like talking about COVID here. But it's I came from the commercial world. I worked at Clark Builders, and my last job, it was huge. It was like $360 million budget. And I was a foreman there. So like, it was large construction, big numbers, lots of people. And I always liked that. So I'm trying to attain those goals, moving forward and like later down the line. So sticking with commercial.
Nice.
And then, so your company now, was this the one you started with the gentleman who helped you out of your addiction? Is that, or is this a new venture as well?
This is a new venture. Yeah, we built it to a point, and we kind of got to the point where it was I wanted to go one way and he wanted to go the other.
Yeah.
And he wanted to stay a certain size, and I wanted to just keep going bigger and bigger, like keep going up those rungs that I was talking about, because I'm deathly afraid of lack of progress, because when I don't feel that's when those scary thoughts come in and that monster kind of comes out. So I want to continue to grow, and commercial is the one way to do it. Like, you can I could build a high rise one day, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the goal, is to build a high rise.
Yeah.
One day. I have a vision board and stuff. I should have. Yeah. I got this thing behind me. I should put my vision board. But I got a high rise with, it says Anvil Construction on it, and I do visualization and stuff like that, where I close your eyes and you really, really meditate and think about it. And I'm standing at the base of the building, looking up, and my signs on there and all that kind of stuff, right?
I like it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, it's something to be said about like the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff. And I do it not every day. I'm going to start. I was talking to my girlfriend about starting it more seriously again. Just kind of falls off a bit, but.
You ever read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand?
The which?
The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
No, I haven't heard of that. Yeah?
Yeah. It's about an architect who goes against the grain and builds big buildings. Would recommend.
Okay, that's what you'll have to DM that to me, because I'll forget.
Sounds good.
yeah. I love it already.
So how should we be going? I wanted to but it sounds like you're definitely like a mindset guy. Like, we haven't quite said that word, I don't think, but I'm kind of picking up hints of it here and there for sure, right?
Yeah, so, definitely mindset for sure, and being in the zone is important to me.
So do you think, like, would you say you have a unique take on it with your experience, obviously, like for what you bring, I don't know, to a mindset? Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah, I think I'm picking it up. I do a lot of self-reflection, and I can pull from the past at will, is what mostly what I do. And when I think about how bad I wanted the drug and I would do anything for it, like, I would have 0.00 dollars in my bank account, and I would still somehow get it. So that's hustle. That's the way I look. That's the way I look at it now. Is that comes from somewhere? There's an ambition there, right? To get your objective done. So when I'm on the tools, which is fairly rare now, but or whatever, if I'm in the office, even doesn't matter. If I want to do something or I have to get something done, I don't necessarily want to do it. I think about the end objective, and then that helps me power through it. I think about, like, man, you're gonna fucking not do this paperwork, but you were able to go run around, try to find side jobs to do, knock on doors. Hey, I can do your flooring in your basement for a discounted rate, and I would do it, and I would do a good job, and I would do all this hustle, but you don't want to do this small little thing. Like, that I kind of pull from there.
Right.
But in addition to that, I believe in having like a very strong base and a strong anchor of each day and each objective. So I don't just go do something. Like, I'll plan it out first, not necessarily on a piece of paper or on whatever. Big long-term goals, yes, but if I'm going to go to the gym, I don't just go. I'm like, I can do shoulders today, and I'm going to do this, and this. Like, make sure that I'm really invested into that, so that I can anchor my mindset. And other things too, like if I need to go talk to a buddy about something, or somebody wants to FaceTime me about addiction or something like that, I'm not just going to like press the button and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm going to sit there. Even before this, I sat down, I have an Alcoholics Anonymous book right next to me, read a couple things in there, and I just kind of got myself back into that mentality. I went to my Facebook memories to like 2014. I'm like, fuck, I was skinny. You know what I mean? And you just kind of bring myself into the story again, right? So I have a good mindset, and I can have a meaningful conversation with you guys. Like, everything is kind of planned out more or less.
It's almost like a state control where you're getting into the state of living it again. Yeah, exactly. Which can be, man, the first time I did it, I was I slept for 2 days. I was so exhausted. Wow. Like, because again, I didn't tell anyone. Only like I would say 4 people knew, something like that. Like, oh really? Wow. Yeah, tons of my family suspected something, but like only 4 or 5 people knew. So when I came out talking about all this shit, I knew I was dropping a hammer on it on people, and my parents are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Like, so I gave it my all, and I like slept for a couple of days. I can talk about it very openly now, because it's kind of like when you buy a new car and you're like, you don't want to scratch it, and then it gets scratched, and you're like, yeah, fuck it, it's already scratched. What's another 2 or 3?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. So that was your first podcast appearance, right? Like, that was kind of the first time because that was only like a year ago, correct? Yeah. It was only actually, I think it was it was about a year ago. Yeah, it was about a year ago. And but actually, the first time I actually talked about it was at my old school at Louis. Right. Talking to grade minors. Okay. That was before. Yeah, that was actually the first time I talked about it. Now that I think about it, but it wasn't recorded. It wasn't. I took a picture of us, me and the kids after, and I just told everybody I was talking about just the entrepreneurship part of it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but the Second Floor podcast that was the first time I talked about it. Wow. Yeah.
I just sent you a tweet here. It says, crackheads hustle 4 days straight to get a rock. No sleep and no food. You ever work that hard for something? Don't get outworked by a crackhead. Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, man. That's my mantra.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's it's so true. That's good. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting perspective, but it makes sense. I think I would agree with you there for sure. Yeah, and if you guys do you guys have something like, there's something you guys are probably like really passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you can, that comes from somewhere, and if you can find that part in your brain and your body and all that and your soul, and you can, if you really, 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 really focus on it, you can use it in other applications, and that's what I got lucky enough to be able to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So I guess kind of like going forward with your, now you have your new goals with like speaking and education, let's call it, and stuff. Would you say, like, when you're doing your speaking engagements, is it typically kind of to that younger crowd? Is it like, would you call it more preventative, or is it kind of like an older audience, or everywhere in between? And I'm assuming because it's new, you're kind of figuring it out as well as you go along, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So I've done junior high, done a high school, college, a university. I'm gonna do a couple corporate events as well to like spot addiction in the workplace and how to deal with it. So I don't have like one set speech and one target audience. I'll mold to who I'm talking to. So if I'm going into a junior high, I'm going to speak a certain way. That's going to be more preventative and more just straight up. This is what's going to happen if you do it. Like, I'm not going to say don't do it, because that doesn't matter. You're going to do what you're going to do, but I will tell you what the outcome will be. Or if I'm talking at like a corporate event, I'm going to say, like, if you got a couple guys or girls and Monday they're missing Mondays, that's a red flag. And they look a certain way and they talk a certain way, and you know what I mean? So it's a different demographic for sure. So yeah, I'm trying to dial in there's obviously only a certain amount of groups. It's not infinite, but I'm sure I'll have about a dozen kind of bullet points. Like, I don't read off a script when I do my speeches. I'm not like that. Yeah. I'll have a couple bullet points. I'll look at like the first two, and then I just go, and I just kind of pace around, and I'm just very comfortable up there. I really like it.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you always a good public speaker, or you just good? Are you comfortable in front of crowds, or?
I'm comfortable in front of crowds, but I was in music class, played alto sax, so I could play with a band in front of people. That was no problem. I did a talent show. I could sing pretty good. That was no problem at all, actually. But my first time making a speech was at a wedding, and I was like, so the first time I was doing this for real was with the grade 9ers, and I'm like nervous. I'm like, let some fucking grade 9ers make you nervous? I'm like, come on. And maybe it's because it was ground zero for when all my trouble started, was where I got expelled and stuff. But once I started, like, when you're good at something, like, like a shitty singer knows usually, or someone playing guitar and knows they're not good yet and they got to keep practicing or whatever. I knew that I was like, hey, there's something here, I can do it. So then I got confidence, and then now I'm good. Like the last one I did was at the U of A, and there was like over 100 people there.
Oh, nice.
And it was just like kind of like I was nervous for sure, but I wasn't like crippling or anything like that. It was just like a healthy fear. So
yeah.
Do you have any guys that you follow that are really good at public speaking? Because you mentioned Tony Robbins, for example. Have you ever watched him? Any of his seminars or anything?
Yeah, probably all of them. Not live, but online. Gary Vaynerchuk as well. He's more. I got to take him in doses, because he's so fuck you, that it's like if I'm not feeling like getting talked to that way that day, I won't listen to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta be like full of piss and vinegar that day. My mom just texted me, when are you doing that podcast?
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. I listen to, Joe Rogan's not a public speaker, but I listen to his podcast, and that's where I get a lot of knowledge from, like how the brain works, when he has guests like Jordan Peterson is like one of my ultimate favorites. Such an intellect. Have you guys ever heard of him?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, you read his book too?
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's in the other one. But yeah, I've read it a few times, only because
My laptop is actually my laptop is sitting on a stack of books, and it's at the bottom of my stack of books here. But,
it's super good. The 12 Rules for Life is super good. What else do I listen to? Tony Robbins, obviously. I already said that. Ed Milet. Ed Milet's really good.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and occasionally, if I'm like doing something like very labor intensive, like I had to dig these window wells once, and there was a gas line really close, so I had to use a shovel, and it was frozen. So I was outside for 10 hours straight, and I ate lunch in my truck, and that was my only break. My hands were all blistered and stuff. I listened to Andy Frisella.
Okay, yeah.
But he's too much for me, man.
Oh, really?
But he got me through it. He got me through those 10 hours. I'm like, man, this guy doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's like, don't be a little bitch, and like, you know what I mean. And listening to David Goggins' stories gets me through a lot of those types of days as well.
Absolutely. So I guess on that note of kind of let's call it giving advice and stuff, when it comes to I want to two-part this question, but part one, like, so when people reach out to you regarding addiction, or when you're advising, do I want to say, people on it, like, what, and you say your approach is unpopular, what's kind of your approach and methodology that you tell those people, and perhaps even like their family and people around them, right?
Yeah, I always ask for more info. Like, if someone says, I'm addicted to cocaine, I don't know what to do, I'll say something like, are you tired of it, or what is it? Has it taken control of your life? What stage are you at? Tell me a little bit about yourself, and just really listen. And then I'll always say seek professional help, because I am nowhere near a professional. I went through it and I got out of it, and I'm grateful for that, obviously. But I just have a different take in addition to taking professional advice.
Right.
You kind of like sprinkle me on top of the professional advice is what I say. A lot of times I gotta kind of know you. If you're from some other part of the world, I won't even open it because it'll say seen, right, on Instagram. I don't want to leave anyone unseen. So I'm not reading it, because I'm not going to be able to give you the proper advice that you need. So, but it's always going to say seek professional help, because I could be missing something that's going to hurt somebody, or
right.
Somebody, like I said earlier, maybe like, well, Anthony Zorzetto is able to do, have a beer and not want to do blow, so maybe I can. And they're not listening to that inner voice. It's like, no, you can't fucking do that. And then they go relapse. I don't want to be responsible for any of that, right? And But it's always going to say seek professional advice. But I'm also always going to put in my 2 cents as well, where it's not always about addiction. It's actually really. It's probably only about 50% about addiction. A lot of people reach out to me for like business, like how to not like how to run a business, but how to overcome like an obstacle, or how to get to the gym and keep your mind like dialed in, right?
Sure.
So that I'll talk about all day with anyone. But the addiction one is very, very, very tricky, because people are very, very sensitive, and they're not themselves.
True. Yeah. So, so I guess transitioning more to kind of the slightly lighter talk in terms of business and mindset and the entrepreneurship. There, I guess, do you kind of have like what do I want to say? Like, what's your kind of outlook on it and experience? I mean, obviously, you have your success iceberg behind you there, and I've seen that one before, and I think that's a very good metaphor for sure.
That's this one is that one's important to me for sure, because it's very true. It's very, very true. There's a couple of mentors of mine that are like wildly successful, and they went through some similar to me. Like, they had to go bankrupt. They were, they're broke. They failed their first 3 businesses, and now they're millionaires. And I heard someone say, must be nice, because this person got like a really, really nice box at the Rogers Arena. It's like
okay,
50 grand a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said that he didn't say the money part because he's very humble, but he said, I got this box or whatever, like come to a game one day. It was like something playful like that. Like, oh, it must be nice. And I quickly was like, yo, you have any fucking idea like how hard he had to work? And that iceberg behind me is the same for me. Like, people say that to me too. They're like, oh, like, see my success or whatever, and they're like, oh, it must be nice to have nice things, or it must be nice to be able to whatever, go to vacation, whatever, you name it. But I'm like, yo, man, I slept in a bush. I work 20 hours a day. I still work 10, 12 hours a day. I sacrificed so much, like so much stuff for my like in pursuit of getting sober and being successful. And it's not over, obviously. I'm nowhere near. Like I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but that's one I point to for sure.
Yeah, but nowhere near done. Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, because that reminded me when you said that, because I was listening to one of your other podcast appearances before, because you were mentioning your bankruptcy. Now, was that a business related one, or was that more from the like the addiction, when you had your home or condo repossessed and stuff, or was it kind of all intertwined?
Both. It was all intertwined. Yeah. So my business started to fail because of really it was one mistake. I wasn't assertive enough. I let people walk on me to not pay the last 10% on these couple of jobs, which equated to my profit. Like that's where your profit is. It's at the very end, the last 10%. Hopefully you want to shoot for a little bit higher than that, but I just kept listening to them and saying like, oh, okay, your grandma's sick, whatever, you need to hold on to the money, or just a bunch of bullshit. And I later found out, like I know now, that there's these people, and I drive by them all the time because they live close to my dad. Sometimes I just want to fucking beat the shit out of them, but they took my last 10% and they went to Europe with it.
Really? Wow.
And they straight up, they just lied and said they had to go do whatever, and they went to Europe and had a vacation.
So sick or whatever, or blah blah blah.
Yeah. So that right there, that was the beginning of the end, for the beginning of the temporary end, I'll call it. Because when you're not assertive, you hate yourself. Like when you put up with something that you shouldn't be putting up with, you hate yourself. And I laughed because I don't know if you guys have ever seen that meme where you talk to the shampoo bottles in your shower, you're winning fake arguments. That was me, man, 100%. Like I was like, yeah, no, fuck you, pay me my money, like, and I'm talking to Herbal Essence or something, and you're like,
serves you right, you're using Herbal Essences.
yeah, exactly. It's like I wish I would have said this, and then you start beating yourself up, and then I thought I could confide in my ex-wife at the time, and you could see it all over her face, like, yo, you're being a little pussy, why aren't you getting the money? You know what I mean? And then you don't, you look like a lesser man, and you look like, and then you feel like a failure to her, you feel like a failure to your sub trades and your crew, and you can't collect this money. And then I started switching to going to drugs, and then the business failed, so I had to declare bankruptcy on that, because I obviously I had a lot of ego, and I was very stubborn. So I didn't want to let it go. So I started putting my personal credit cards to pay my guys and pay the trades and get material for the next one. And then I got fucked on that one too. And then, you start giving up and you're not into it. And if you're not all in when you're doing business, it's not going to work. It's insane. It's insane to run your own, construction business. I don't know about any other business really, except for public speaking. That's pretty straightforward.
It's with everything.
Yeah. It's, you have to be into it. You can't just slack off at all. Like you can't. There's no. You're the buck ends with you. That's it. And if you don't have enough drive and testosterone in your body, speaking as a man, to to get the job done, you're gonna hate yourself and spiral down. And I turned into drugs, and it got even worse. It just multiplied, and it just compounded, and I had to declare bankruptcy for personal and business as well. Yeah. But the way I see it is, I'm glad it happened when I was so young. If it happened when I was like 45 or 50, it would have ruined me.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, definitely took some, like, just strictly business speaking, like some risks early, and their failures as much a part of business and success as anything, right? So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and you can't be afraid of failure either. You get it now. Yeah. Like I understand it now.
Yeah,
I have a list of
got quite a few notes there.
I got a lot of fucking notes.
Good.
Awesome, man. Well, shit. I mean, do you have any other questions or comments here, Josh?
Oh, you know what? I'm just looking. Oh, sorry. I thought that was for me.
Yeah. You have any questions for us?
You know what? I do have one little like kind of feel good story. I got my watch here.
Yeah.
This watch I got it. There we go. Technology. Oh, yeah. Nice watch. I had to pawn it when I was at my last dollar.
Really?
I pawned it when I was at the lowest of the lows. It was a couple days before. I vividly remember it. It was a couple days before I got kicked out of my place, and I'm like, yeah, this is. I'm gonna end it all, and I didn't have any money to buy the drugs to end it all, and ultimately obviously I'm here, so I ultimately failed at that. It didn't work. I didn't die. I'm still here. But I pawned this watch to get the money for the cocaine, to get enough courage to kill myself. And I bought it back the other day. It was one of those
like just the other day, like pretty recently, or
yeah.
Oh wow!
Tracked it down and got it. I told myself that I always wanted. I bought this watch when I first started my business because I wanted to kind of like have that feeling of success and whatever, and I made me feel good. And I'm not typically very flashy, but I wanted this one, and I told myself that once I get back on my feet and I get normal and stuff like that, I'm gonna buy that watch back. So just a little feel good story for you guys.
I like it. That's good. Well, normally at the end of our shows, we ask people where we can find you, but I want to change that up. So what's next for you, I guess, will be our parting question.
Next for me is, I'm going to continue to grow Anvil Construction, my business. And I want to get as far reaching as possible with my story on addiction, and just in case someone needs to hear it. And I really mean that. It's not like a plug. And I really do believe in that 4-minute mile metaphor.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing this. And I want to go all over Canada, at least, publicly speaking about that and giving back. I got a second chance, so hopefully I can help people out.
Absolutely. Have you ever thought of like writing a book?
I'm doing it right now.
Oh, awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's good.
Doing it right now. It's just it starts when I'm 10 years old. My parents divorced, so it's kind of like your kid's version of divorce, and then I go into what not that caused all of the addiction and all that kind of stuff, but I do talk about. I start there and I come to today. So it's like actually good therapy for me too to write it down. I like it.
That's awesome,
I believe it.
Man.
Yeah, that's good, man. Excellent. And where can people find you on the World Wide Web and social media and all that jazz?
Oh yeah, Instagram. The business is at Anvil Construction, and the personal one is Mr. Zorzetto. My personal one, I mostly talk about addiction, mindset, being successful or becoming successful, and the odd rant, but very rare.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
awesome, man. Well, yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate you. You know, it's very. I always what's the word I want to use here? like, I'm always hesitant to use this word, but inspirational to hear your story, and especially to be so open about it. Like, we definitely appreciate that. Like, you know, it shows a lot of character, and I think it's a really good story, and, you know, you're making a really good impact with it, I think. So
Oh,
I mean,
great.
2
Thank you so
pages
much.
of notes can't be wrong, man.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. You took notes. That's sweet.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, we'll
That's
have
my
to.
first Skype ever.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We're also vaguely getting the hang of this because we're used to the in-person component too. But yeah, we'll have to have you back once we're allowed to meet in groups of 3 again.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I'll bring some sandwiches.
Sounds good, man. Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, man. Take care.
No problem. Okay, see you guys.